right, well, I thought that was a very clear and quite low-key presentation of what's really an interesting paper. I mean, if you're an economist, this is kind of a very interesting, sort of, in some ways, classic economic question, and a very, credible and imaginative strategy for getting at it empirically. So that's my plug. I think this is a really interesting paper. So, and the other thing I really like about being asked to discuss this paper is I get to talk about fracking, and I know that if I use the right tone of voice, I will sound knowledgeable about fracking, and that just makes me feel kind of really cool. Plus, I've got some fracking icons coming up in the presentation, so thank you for the opportunity for doing this. Okay, so the basic idea here is that there are contracting costs associated with running a fracking line through a specific parcel of land, right? And this cost, or contracting costs, are going to increase with the number of holders of exclusion rights of a land that is required for that line. And it's going to vary also with the characteristics of the holders of those exclusion rights. So some are harder to negotiate with others, conditional on how many of them there are. Okay, so if we assume that the drilling equipment is rationed so that drillers can't drill everywhere that they want at once. They have to pick an order in which they're going to go in. Then they're going to begin with the most profitable lines, and this is going to be affected by the contracting costs. So they're picking the order in which they're going to go in and do these lines. And so the key hypothesis here is that parcels with higher contracting costs are going to be drilled later, all else equal. I think that's a fair sort of summation of the core hypothesis. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about how these guys are specifically estimating this and some questions that came up and maybe some suggestions. I'm going to focus on this because I think this is where my comparative advantage lies, is thinking about how you actually would specify and estimate to test this hypothesis. So they sort of, here's an example of I think the primary regression model that they estimate. So the unit of observation here is land parcel I on oil field J, right? And the dependent variable is, how many days since the beginning of time being 2005 did this thing actually get severed by a fracking line, okay? And so then on the right-hand side, what we've got is a bunch of variables that are the characteristics of the parcel and the characteristics of the parcel's neighbors. And the hypotheses about contracting costs are, sort of embedded in these hypotheses about the signs and magnitudes, of these different variables. Okay, so this is what I'm going to focus on, is this equation. So again, the hypothesis, just to restate it, parcels with higher contracting costs will be drilled later, all else equal. Okay, I don't think there's anything about the theory of contract. I don't think the model delivers very much about how many days later, right? It's going to be, am I going to drill this line first, or am I going to drill that one first? So if I think about it, at any point in time, I might have a certain number of lines where I've acquired the exclusion rights. They're ready to go, and I'm waiting for a drill. Okay? And I'm going to go into the best one that I have available at a particular point in time. So the collection of which lines are ready to go is related to contracting costs, but how long it takes for that drilling equipment to be available has nothing to do with contracting. And so I'm wondering if you might not want to just kind of order these parcels rather than try to, in some sense it might not matter, but there might be something about those particular days, the length of time. At least I would put it this way: if you're going to think through that, if you're going to continue to specify the dependent variable as number of days, you want to think about all the things that are going into that delay and make sure they're all exogenous to what you're doing here as well. Okay, so here's I don't know anything about fracking. Does fracking affect the quality of land and agricultural use? So I'm a farmer, and a guy comes along and says, we're going to run line under your land. Am I worried about this or not? And I know that there are concerns about fracking. I don't know much more than that. If this is true, then higher quality agricultural land is going to be more expensive to acquire the subsurface rights to, or it's going to take longer to acquire those. And we know that agricultural land quality is correlated with land ownership patterns and parcel size, right? So I think it's important to mention and convince us in the paper that not only are these parcel sizes, uncorrelated with the subsurface quality, but also the surface quality. Because if it's true that there is some effect or fear or concern about an effect on the, and I think certainly with the with the vertical wells, there's going to be effect on agricultural rainfall. Okay, so this is just, so these, a number of owners and allotted trusts could provide you with another source of variation, right? So it's not just that it's an allotted trust, it's an allotted trust with so many owners, and which is, so there's, how many exclusion rights there are per owner because they have to have a majority, right? So I'm just thinking that might also get a little bit more variation on the right-hand side with respect to this allotted trust, if you have any data. Okay, I'm not sure this is a good comment, but it lets me use a fracking icon. Okay, so you take a parcel, you draw a circle around it, and you count, the number of different parcels that are within that circle, the 1 mile radius, okay? But a line only has to enter that circle through one point, right? And so the alternative measure might be the smallest number of parcels lying along a 1 mile vector, right? So fracking icon, thank you. Okay, so there's a blue parcel, right? They have the same number of neighbors, but the top one only has to get 1 exclusion right to get in, the bottom one has to get 2. That's it. Okay. So there's this notion that a bigger parcel is more likely to be exploited because of lower transactions costs. But if I just randomly assign fracking lines to an oil well, it's more likely to hit a bigger parcel. So I have a little bit of concern about that interpretation. Alternative units of observation, this is my last one, Krishna. So what if instead of a parcel, you model the order or the timing of a line, right? So you say, okay, according to the theory, I'm going to, the decision maker is deciding on, where am I going to run a line, okay? And the landmen are going to go out, they're going to negotiate with a bunch of owners, and then when a line is assembled, then I'm going to decide whether or not they should go now or pick a different line. So I'm wondering if it isn't more natural to think about, the unit of observation being defined as fracking line. I mean, I think that means you can't use information about all the zeros, all the lines that work here. But it would have the advantage, I think, that the interpretation is more straightforward, and it gets you away from, some of these other issues that came to my mind when I was reading this really interesting paper. So, thank you.
Jane, since you're up there, do you want to manage the picking people?
Oh, picking people, yeah.
Do you want to?
Response?
I don't know. I mean, I'll respond quick. Really helpful comments. Great, super helpful. I think one nice thing about the horizontal drilling is, to the extent there's fear that it will have negative impacts on the surface, I don't think those are very locally contained. I think there's concern that fluid will get into water supplies, but it's not necessarily going to affect the parcel above it per se. But I think where the vertical well is drilled, I think that's where I would be most concerned about that issue. So that's something we will look into. Love to have data on the number of owners of allotted land, but we're not going to get that not parcel specific. And then thinking of the unit of observation as a line is a really good idea. We're beginning to explore that. Yep. Thank you.